Hello, everybody, and welcome to our recorded conversation today. And we're talking to Teresa Baker Opland, and I know this is going to be a real treat for you to hear Teresa's story. So, welcome, Teresa.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited. I've been following your beautiful journey and the stories that you share, and they're very inspiring. So I feel honored to be part of this community that you're creating. Thank
Oh,
you.
thank you, thank you. So, let's start at the beginning. So, tell us a little bit about, who you were before the change happened in your life.
Hmm. Who I was before. Well, before the change happened in my life, for me, life was very predictable. Life was amazing. And I always had this idea that if you had a plan and stayed the course, that's sort of how life would go. It would follow this process and this timing. And having spent decades in the military in service, um, like I said, life was always predictable, and I kind of like that. I kind of like routine and knowing what's coming
Yeah.
until it didn't, until something happened. And just to give you a little bit of background, like I said, career military. My husband was also military, and it was one of those stories where it's love at first sight and soulmate and all the beautiful things, all the amazing buzzwords you want to give it. And life was predictable and until one day, my husband was away doing things, being a Marine, and I was home with the three babies who were at the time 9 months, 2 and 4. And then I received the call. I received the call that he wasn't going to come home this time or ever again, and life as I knew it would never be the same. I went from my biggest challenge of the day would be, what am I making for dinner and what am I doing at work that day, to, oh my God, how am I going to tell my sons that daddy's never coming home again? And life, the meaning changes, and is there meaning? And so for me, it was a story of, from predictability to a story of loss and grief and hardship and feeling isolated and feeling singled out, and not in a good way. And what do I do now? And but amazingly, this story, as hard as it is, it led me to life being different, to looking for the blessings and finding them, fortunately, because it's a choice, isn't it? You have to decide to see things differently and look for the good, because otherwise the alternative is it's too dark. And I had reasons to get up in the morning. I had three babies, two still in diapers, and honestly, I got to the point where I no longer wanted to be limited to my story of grief and hardship. Like I wanted to live again. I wanted to be present for my kids again. And it took some work, and I will tell you, there's no sidestepping it. You must go through the grief work. You must do that journey and make it a priority. And fortunately, I did, which is what led me to my wholeness and to my well-being. But it also led me to something amazing through my grief. I mean, I did all the work. I belonged to a young widow support group, it was called, and I had a counselor, and I read all the books on it. And then one day I found myself in front of a medium. And at the time, I didn't even know what that meant. But this medium, what he did for me, it was life changing. It was life affirming, honestly. And he proved to me, through his amazing ability to connect with the spirit world, he proved to me that my husband is still around. He still loves us and continues to guide us. And that gave me the space to at least put that away. I didn't have to worry about him anymore. I could get back to life, and I could get back to parenting and work and all the things. And there was something there for me. Like, I was so fascinated by it that the time that I had when I wasn't changing diapers and doing all the things, I sort of hit the books. I took workshops on mediumship. I read all the books, and I sort of learned this process myself, and how to connect with energy in the spirit world. And it was mostly for me because I wanted to understand how it works. And the next thing you know, fast forward, years later when I had the bandwidth to, I started doing it for others. And so now that's my work in the world now. For me, it was just another way to serve because I know how powerful it is. I know that the healing that you can get from it is profound. I know that personally, and I know that from my clients. So yes, it was hard. Losing Tom was probably the hardest thing I've ever had to do, and telling my boys. Um, but there's been gold in it. And trust me, at the time, had you told me one day it will make sense or one day something good will come from it, I would not have believed it. So these things take time, but now I see it. Now I see that it was always part of the plan and part of my process and my purpose. And so now I embrace it. And so the blessing in all of it has been my spiritual awakening. And um, it's led to my work, even though I had my down on my knees moments, because there was more to it even than just his passing. There were other things that came up related to my health, which is sometimes normal and common when you're going through acute grief. You feel it physically and you think you are, now there's something wrong. They thought I had MS, and I went through some horrible testing and things. And it turns out it's all part of grief. And so I've had my moments. It has not been easy. But honestly, I don't know that I would have it any other way because of what I have gained from it, and the spiritual growth I have gone through because of it. So, yeah, I know it's a long story, but this is where life has led me now. And I'm still military. Actually, I just recently retired, and so moving into this work full time now, and I am so excited about it. I'm ready to serve in this way more. So, yeah.
And have you always had a kind of a spiritual element to you, or was this something new? Because it feels kind of fairly disconnected from military life.
Yes. Yes. I love that question so much, Kimberly, because I will tell you, no, that this was not me. Absolutely not. Like I said, I was in the routine, and I was in the, if it's not right in front of me, I'm not thinking about it. I don't see it. And so no, this was not part of how I was wired. I was raised Roman Catholic, so if anything, the complete opposite. You need a priest, and you need to go to church, and you need to do the things. So spirituality, my understanding was religion, and that's not the case at all. And it was through this process and my spiritual awakening that kind of got me to where I am. So no, this wasn't always me. And what I would also love to say on this is anybody can do what I do. Like, nobody is so special that they can't do it. We can all do it because the way it works is through energy. We are energy bodies. We all have an aura. We all have chakras, and that's how this work is done. We're all doing it every day anyway. Even talking to people in the physical world, you're using your intuition. You're using your energy. There's an energy exchange, and so you just need to know how to do it differently to connect with the unseen. And if you feel called to do it, I would say do it. Go that way. If you're curious, there's a reason for it. It's about intention, dedication, and education. You have to learn how to sort of manipulate the energy body so that you can take it in and interpret and intuit. And I will say though, with this work, there's a sense of like, it's so sacred. There's a sense of responsibility because if somebody's coming to you for this work, like, you're in the care of a soul. You have to know what you do, and you have to know how to hold space, and you have to have empathy and compassion. So I would say that that's something that comes with training and with time. But honestly, anybody can do it. Anybody who feels called to this work in some way, whether it's as a Reiki practitioner, whether it's mediumship or psychic work or communicating with the angelic realm, and it's, let's be real, it's all the same anyway. You can absolutely do it. In fact, you probably came to do it if you're curious about it. So yeah, it's a great question. I love that. Thank you.
And um, I'm interested to know that first experience you had with a medium, because a lot of people, it scares them, the idea of that. What will they find out? Will it be some
Yeah.
bad news? That kind of thing. What was it that drew
Mm,
you to that first experience and made you feel like, wow, this is real?
that's beautiful. Yes. So I would say if you're curious about seeing a medium, do your research, make sure that they are trained, make sure that they are qualified because it could go the other way. It can be very hurtful. And for that reason, yeah, it can be scary. But for me, I was very blessed to get in front of a very talented medium. And for me, he brought through evidence. He brought through stories and proof that he's still with me. And that's the whole point of mediumship is to prove the continuity of life, that they are still around you. Um, and so for me, he did that. You know, he shared stories and details and information that only Tom would have known. And so, but I will say, when I showed up to this appointment, I was nervous. I was so still in the throes of grief, but I was grasping like I needed something. I need, and yes, the grief work and the therapy and all that was great, but I was worried about him. I needed to know he was okay, and that's what it did for me. Just proving that he's still with me showed that okay, they're gone, but they're not gone. They still continue. There's still life on the other side of life, and so that's very empowering, and it gives you the space to get on with your life. So for me, yes, it was scary. I was nervous. In fact, I went in there, arms folded, prove it to me, attitude, right? Which now I love when people come to me like that because I know that they um, something got them there, and I feel honored to be the one to bring that to them. But no, I was very resistant. But a lot of the other widows in my support group were going, and they had amazing things to say, and I was willing to try anything.
Mm,
And the first thing he said to me, he brought through some other family members, and I was like, "Great, that's wonderful." Not who I didn't say this out loud, but that's not who I wanted to hear from. And then he looked at me and he paused and he said, "Oh my goodness, you lost your husband." How he knew that is beyond me, because I was wearing his ring on a chain, but I kept it tucked because I didn't want to give any clues. I wanted him to prove it to me because that's what I do by nature anyway. In the military, it's what I did. I'm an inspector. Prove it to me. And so I wanted proof, and he brought it to me. And then the next thing he said was, I see uniforms all around you, your husband, even you, and like you can't make this stuff up. And so I knew there was something there. I knew that whatever he was doing was real. I couldn't understand it, and it didn't really matter. The
mm.
proof was enough, but it was also enough to make me curious to like to dig. How does this work? I need to understand it, and so that's why I also want to say if someone out there is curious in that way too, that's probably part of your life's path. So, answer the call or at least follow the curiosity. And it's okay to be nervous and it's okay to doubt. In fact, I think a healthy degree of doubt and skepticism is important because it's a form of protection, um, just in case. Just in case the medium isn't quite as trained as they should be. So
And are you able to use that now? Now you've learned yourself. Are you able to use that to still communicate with Tom? Or
yes.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I will tell you, he has become it's actually beautiful. I talk to him every day, and my parents, so many. But I talk to him every day, and he's actually become my gatekeeper. And I didn't know this. I didn't go looking for it, and I didn't even know it was a thing until one day I was delivering a message, and it was at the end of a demonstration, and I was already getting tired, and I was having a hard time holding the link, but I could feel that the woman in front of me really needed a connection, and I didn't know who because I was already wrapping things up, and I felt my husband move into my left, and in my head, I said, "Hi, what are you doing here? I'm working," right? And all he said was, "It's her husband," and I said, "Oh," and he's like, "I got it. I'll help you." And in my mind's eye, I actually saw him in his uniform help escort this gentleman in and said, "Right this way, sir. She's going to take really good care of you." Because he was, even in spirit, they're a little doubtful. Um, they don't completely change their personality. So he was a little afraid of how this worked. So Tom convinced him that it was a safe space. And then the messages that came through were so beautiful and probably messages that I will never forget. And it was early in my career, yet I will never forget them because they were so meaningful to her, but also meaningful to me because I could see he's still helping me. He's still right by my side. Yeah, I get to talk to him every day, and but this is something that's available to everybody.
Mm.
Yeah.
And so that's taken you into a whole new realm of work.
Yes.
So tell us about the work that you're doing now. What do you do with people?
Okay, so for example, if somebody books a session with me, it could go one of two ways, depending on what you're needing in the moment. Yes, I communicate with the spirit world. I also get downloads from the angelic realm. So I use angel oracle cards, and we provide guidance in that way. I do. My favorite thing to do is a 12 card spread to see how the year has the potential to unfold for you. And as we talk, we'll identify some limiting beliefs that we need to move through, some blessings that you can expect. So I love those. And typically, what happens is it becomes this beautiful like symphony of angelic guidance, and then spirit is here too, and also your mom has this to say, and so it's a combination of things. So that's what a typical session will look like. I'm also a biomagnetic practitioner, so along with Reiki, I lay magnets on the body to help move energy and balance, and we can move pathogens, but mostly to balance the energy in the body. And I'm moving more toward retreats as well. So I'm very excited about that. I'll probably start locally, New England, and then ideally, I want to take them further in collaboration with other healers to provide, I want to say, the types of experiences and environments that I would have loved when I was seeking, whether it's through grief or just wanting some clarity on my path or my work, or maybe I'm confused right now and don't know what to do, and I need that supportive space. So that's my next
Mm,
venture, and I'm really excited about that. So
great. And when you are working with somebody, or like even with when you're speaking with Tom or your parents, how do you know it's that voice and not just something you're making up in your head, if you like? How do
yeah,
you
you're
know that? It's
I love your questions. Like they're so good. So yeah, you're absolutely right, because it can, right? Because the mind can potentially do that because it wants to keep us safe, and it wants to give us the advice it thinks that we need. But this is where intuition comes in, right? Even though I've been doing this a while, I will still run it through my intuition. Okay, who is this? This is Tom. Maybe I'll get a nice relaxed feeling in my gut, right? Yes, this is Tom. Or maybe it'll feel a little tightening. No, it's not Tom. Who is it? And I'll just kind of go down the line. So it's not like I know right away. I still have to intuit and interpret the energy. Um, and yeah, so you do have to pull yourself out of the mind. So what I do is to pull myself out of that. I take heart breaths to put me into my my soul, into my truth, into my connection to spirit, because that's where it happens, right? I want to make sure that it's not coming from fear or the subconscious mind, because you're absolutely right. It can be a little tricky, but this just comes with experience, and it comes with intention, and just being discerning, right? I will say, if it's empowering, and if it's affirmative, and if it feels good, it's typically spirit or the angelics. If it's sort of minimizing and criticizing and it's loud, to me, that's me anyway, and probably most people, it's the mind, right? So just do a little bit of a gut check with that.
yeah, okay. And you talked about how, you know, from a grief story, you decided you want to create a new story. So just can you just
Mm,
explain that a little bit more?
sure. Yes. So I'll be honest. I told the story of grief for a long time because it was that hard. Um, it was honestly that hard. It was life shattering, and being, we call it a gold star widow, we're a gold star family, being that, there's also almost a sense of pride in it, and but it's heavy. And so I honestly just got tired of it. Like I was feeling it physically, and it was almost like I would tell the story, and I would even see the people I'd be talking to sort of shrink. And So it makes you really pause and listen to yourself. Do I still want to be that? Am I still that? Absolutely. I don't change the story. The story is who I am. The story is powerful and the story has gotten me to where I am and it's beautiful and it's necessary. But I don't need to keep operating from that. And so you literally have to decide. I decided. I honestly got sick of it. To be honest, you get to the point where it's like, "Ugh, I'm tired and it's heavy and I want what's next for me. And there's always something next. So it's always a choice. You do have to decide. You do still have to do the work, but it's so worth it, right? Because that the next version of you, the rest of your life is waiting. And like I said, there's even some gold in it. However heavy your story is, however hard your story is, I promise you, you will get to a point where you will look back and see the growth. You will see what it led to, if you choose to. So, I mean, some people do get stuck, but yeah, decide you want more, decide you want something different, decide you want something better, but you will take it with you, and it's actually beautiful. I think so.
Thank you. That's so powerful. And finally, just before we finish, have you got a piece of personal wisdom that you'd like to share or a favorite quote?
Oh yes. I feel like the wisdom for me was learning that you are not alone. Even if you are physically alone, you are never alone. And that for me was the most empowering because I was alone. Like, in the military, you move every few years. And yes, I had family, but because I'd been away so long, it's almost like you got to get to know them again. And so I felt very isolated until I came into this work and I realized that, oh my gosh, in the unseen, I have so much support, and we're meant to lean into that. We are meant to. So there's a quote, Wayne Dyer would quote it all the time, and it comes from A Course in Miracles, and it says, if you only knew who walked beside you at all times on the path that you have chosen, you could never experience fear or doubt again. Because they do walk with you. We are born with free will, free choice, so we need to invite them close. Otherwise, they can't interfere or intervene. So invite them because they literally hover and wait, and they want to collaborate. They want to contribute. They want to heal you and guide you. Just say yes. It's powerful. Your life will change. Your life will never be the same in the best possible way.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That's such a powerful story, and I've learned so much as well. So thank you very much
Yeah.
for sharing your heart with us. Thank you.
You're so welcome, and thank you for allowing me to share my story, and like I said, to be part of this beautiful community and this work that you're doing. It's beautiful and it's life changing.
Thank you.